Hello. Okay, so this week we are going to be going over components and other tools of week 3. So as a basic overview of what this lecture is going to be, there's going to be 5 main sections. It's going to be components, other useful tools, grids and guides, constraints, and ideation and wireframing. Here are the links for attendance and also the lecture file if you're interested in following along. All right, so components are reusable element systems throughout your designs. So components are elements that you can create which are reusable across your entire project. And you can make these out of anything in your project, such as shapes, icons, images, text, and so on. So components are good for grouping things together into categories and maintaining consistent designs over your project. There are 2 main functions of components. The first one is going to be your main component, which is going to be the parent component, and it defines the properties of the component. Some of the properties include shape and size, colors, location of text boxes, and so on. So for a shortcut, you can select the layers that you want and click the component button, which is going to be in your top left corner of the top toolbar. And click the dropdown if you want to make multiple layers into multiple components. Alt/Option plus Command or Control plus K also works. The second is going to be an instance. So an instance is basically like the child of a main component. It's going to be a copy of the main component that can be reused throughout your design. So they are linked to your main component, so any change that you make to the main component will be reflected in the instance, but you can also individually change instances, which overrides them. So the assets panel is going to be right next to the layers panel in your left-hand side of the screen, and you will be able to view all of your files components inside this assets panel. So a file's components can also be accessed through the keyboard shortcut Shift+I. So this opens a list where you can search for, filter, and use all sorts of assets. So there's 2 main components in ways components can be used. The first one, you can create a main component and then use its non-overridden instances throughout the design. If you want to make any changes to the component, all instances will automatically update to match the main. So for example, you can make icons, stages of a progress bar, buttons with set text and styles, such as next, continue, cancel, etc. The second way is going to be creating a main component by using it as a template. So when you create instances from a main component, you can edit text, colors, and other elements. Shape and size will still remain linked to the main component, making it easy to update the size, fonts, or spacing. So for example, cards with like an email card with subject, sender, preview, and icon. Buttons where text and size will change depending on where it's used, and also text inputs. So some examples, there's many ways to use and apply components from games, character makers, buttons, and other UI UX elements. All of these cool things can be built with the same basic component feature. So on the right here, we see some Catan board game pieces, Figma Bingo, a system of button variants, and elements of a illustrated avatar maker. So variants are a way of grouping components that have similar purposes with only minor differences. It allows you to organize your components and quickly switch between variants of that element in your design. So for example, you can create many different variants of buttons, but they are all in the family of button. So groups of components can be made by renaming components with / naming conventions. So for example, family / property1 / property2, etc. And then selecting them all and combining them as a variant group using the button in the right sidebar. Adjusting and swapping variants. Variance properties can be adjusted, selecting the variant group, then in the right sidebar, you can add more properties or edit names. You can even create properties that use switches by naming the property options on/off or true and false. Once you've made a group of variants, you can go to Assets in the left bar and drag out an instance of the variant. In the right sidebar, you can then switch between each variant. So component properties are a more advanced way to customize component elements without using variants and are displayed in the Design tab. So elements within a component can be customized easily using properties. You can toggle the visibility of an element, update an element's text, or swap instances of elements, such as swapping icons. So the three properties are going to be text. If you have text layers within a component that will be customized, you can add a text layer to the component. And the next time you use an instance of the component, the Design tab will let you edit the text directly. The second one is going to be Boolean, which is going to be useful when you want to toggle the visibility of a certain element within your component. So instances of the component will have a toggle button in the Design tab that allows you to hide or show the element. The third and last one is going to be swap instance. So the swap in instance property is ideal if you have multiple values that you want to switch between. So for example, if you have buttons with a lot of different options for icons, this property lets you easily choose which one you want. All right, so variables, which were just released and still in beta mode. Variables are reusable definitions like styles, but they can be assigned various design attributes like color, numbers, and strings. However, unlike styles, variables can switch between definitions depending on the theme that is applied. There's 4 main variable types. So when you create a variable, you'll see that there are 4 options. They are going to be color, which controls the fill or stroke, number, which relates to any unit measurement, such as corner radius, spacing, etc. Third one is going to be string, which is going to control your text, and Boolean, which is going to be toggle visibility. So variables can be applied to layers and objects using fields in the right sidebar. All right, now we're going to do a quick demo. All right, so as we see here, we are going to be making a weather card. So to create your card, we have an example here already. I'm just going to copy and paste it to the side over here. And because it's already a component, I'm just going to detach it just to show you, like demonstrate how to create a component. So I detached the instance. So right now it's just like a normal frame. But if you click here on the diamond icon on the top toolbar that says create component, or you can control RK or command alt K. You click it and it's going to turn purple, which means that it's now a component. So while you're selecting your component, you're going to go into the right-hand panel, click on properties right here, the little plus button, and then you're going to add a variant, which is going to create a component set. So this is a quick way of doing it. Instead of doing the slash naming method, you can just do this and it'll be a little faster. There's going to be this plus icon right here that you're going to click twice because we're going to have 3 variants in this set. We're going to be adding a sunny weather card and also a rainy weather card. So to do this, I'm just going to replace the icons right here with a sun. And then I'm going to rename this sunny. And then this last one, I'm going to make it rainy. So we're going to delete this cloud right here and add this cloud. And then we're going to add this rain right here. And then I'm going to rename this rainy. All right, so now we have our basic component set. We're going to go over here. Yes, our component set looks like this: cloudy, sunny, and then rainy. So we are going to reorder the cards on the left-hand side panel just so they match the order of the component set. So that's already done right now for me. Oh, wait, no, sorry, it's not. I actually have to drag it down right here. So if we move the sunny one below the cloudy one. Yes, okay. And then there is going to be 2 ways to rename the cards. So one, you can rename the card directly on the right panel by clicking the individual component that you want to change. So right now I have the sunny one selected. So if you go into the right-hand side right here where it says current variant, we can rename it and call it sunny. Okay, and there's also a different name. So if you select the last card right here, which is going to be rainy, you can also rename it by selecting the, the, selecting the frame or the component, sorry, and renaming it with equals and then rainy. So these two things do the same thing. It just depends on whatever you're more comfortable with or whatever you think is faster, but it's going to be the same function. So once we have all of our components and variants, oh, sorry, did not mean to do that. Created right here, you can go over to the assets panel, which is going to be right next to your layers panel. And as you see here, you should only have one. I have two because this is a pre-made example, but if this is the one I just made. So if you click and drag out, you have a instance of the component that you just made. So you didn't move the original main component. This is just like a baby child of it. So it's an instance. Yeah, so to change the card type, you can click on your instance, which is already clicked right now, and you can update the variant directly here. So right now it's cloudy, but if I click sunny, it's going to change to the sunny. If I click rainy, it's going to click to rainy. Yeah, so that's a basic overview on how to create components using a weather app style. All right, so moving on, bonus, introduction to variables. Once again, disclaimer, we won't ask you to do this in depth since it was just released during config and also it's still in beta mode, but we want to go over it in class briefly just for people who are curious or just to make you aware of the function. So right now I have nothing selected. I'm gonna go back to the layers panel, but I have nothing selected. I'm going to click local variables right here, and it's going to give me this screen. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to click create variable right here. Oh, wait, sorry. Actually, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go over here. Since I already have a collection created, yours shouldn't yet, or actually you have the same file, so yours will also too. But you're going to go over here and you're going to create collection. So it's a new collection. You're going to rename it, let's say values. Oh, sorry, yes. We're also, right now, we're going to make light and dark mode for the weather cards that you just created using variables just to demonstrate how it works. So in this values collection, we're going to press create variable right here in the middle, and then you're going to press color. And then since there's going to be two colors for the background and also the text of the mode, you're going to make two colors. So the first one we're going to name white. And then for the value, I'm just going to make it like a grayish white right here, maybe like this. And then the second color is going to be black. And then I'm going to make it sort of like a dark, almost black, but not quite black. Okay, so when that is done, you are going to create, you basically just set the individual hex numbers of what you want the background or text to be in your weather card. So I'm basically just setting like a style, but it's not a style because it's a variable. But basically this is just like combining multiple styles into one function. So to apply this into the actual creation of a dark mode and light mode, you're going to create another collection right here. So you're going to press create collection, and then you're going to press create variable. And since it's light and dark mode, which affects color, you are going to press color once again. But once again, because you're not just assigning colors this time, you're creating a mode. You're going to click this plus button right here that says new variable mode. And then it's going to give you mode 1 and mode 2. So our first mode is going to be light mode. So I'm going to put light. Our second mode is going to be dark mode. So I'm going to put dark. And we're going to have two variables because there's going to be a color for the background and also a color for the text. So the first one is going to be called background. And then for light mode, you're going to want to reference the colors that you just made in your previous collection. So instead of like reassigning it here in this color panel, we're going to go to libraries, and in this values collection that you see that we just created, you're going to select white, and then renaming the second color here is going to be text. So your text for light mode is going to be black, but once again, we're not going to create another color here. We're going to go into libraries and use the one that you just assigned in your past collection here. And so for dark mode, we're going to do vice versa. So the background is going to be black and the text is going to be white. Yeah, so after that, you should have already assigned, it should look like this. Everything should be assigned already. So we can go ahead and close this tab. If we go to assets again and drag out another component, and we're going to detach the instance. And to apply the variables, you have to apply the properties that we just used into the fill and stroke. So basically we are going to apply the style so we can toggle between light and dark mode. So here when I go into this card that I just detached and I go into this rectangle, which is going to be the background color, I'm to go here, not the plus one, the style icon right here. We are going to go into collection, which says background. Oh, I should have renamed it, sorry. But we're going to select the background because this is the rectangle with the background color. And then I'm going to go here and select all three text. And then we're going to go into fill again, but instead of background, because this is the text, we're going to select text. So right now it doesn't look like much change just because we're still in light mode since it's automatically light mode. But if you go over here to the right-hand sidebar where it says layer and you see this little icon right here that says change variable mode, right now in collection it's automatically light, so we're in light mode. It doesn't look much different, but if you go ahead and click dark, it's going to change to dark mode. So this is basically helpful because if you have complex designs that you want to toggle between light and dark mode quickly, as a reference to the color variable option here, this is a great way to do it. So I know this is a little complicated. Don't worry if you don't totally understand how it works, but if you are interested in this file, there's going to be a more in-depth introduction right here, which is written by our TA, Chris. There's even some code reference here if you are interested in what the code will look like. Yeah, so that should be the demo. I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this card real quick. And also this one. Okay, so going back to the lecture. So other useful tools that we're going to go over in this lecture is going to be smart selection, grids and guides, and also constraints. So smart selection is going to be ways to quickly arrange and rearrange elements in your design. So when you're working in Figma, it's guaranteed that your project will have many layers and elements that you'll need to rearrange. Smart selection helps you do that by letting you select groups of items and then adjusting their order or spacing with just click or drag. So if you have a group of objects that you want to arrange in space evenly, there's no need to manually drag them around. If you make sure they're aligned on the X or Y axis and then click to select, and then drag to select them all and click tidy up in the right sidebar. So you can also do this by selecting them all and then clicking Control-Shift-Alt-T for PC. I'm not sure what the Mac shortcut is. And then from there, you can hover over your selection and drag the handles up and down. So as you see in the video on the left, there's these little pink circles that you can drag and also the pink spacing, and that indicates that you're in smart selection mode, that you're adjusting all of the things selected at once. So reordering objects. We can swap the order of objects that have already been aligned and tidied up. So by selecting the objects, you're going to hover over the center of one that you want to move, and you're going to see this little hollow pink circle. It's called the smart handle, and then you're going to click and drag and move it to the desired final spot, and then you'll keep the orientation and everything the same, which just quickly swaps it neatly. You can also resize objects really quickly this way, multiples of them at once. So you're going to resize them in the same way, but once you select all the groups or the groups of all the objects, you're going to shift plus click the smart handle, which is going to be, once again, the little pink ring in the center of the objects that you want to resize, and then drag them out the same way that you would want to resize them as normal. So grids and guides, which are going to be used to keep your designs pixel perfect. So two tools that can be used to help you align objects and keep spacing in mind are grids and guides. Guides are lines that you can drag out to where you want that to help you align things, and layout grids help align objects within a frame among a custom grid, not reliant on a pixel grid. And they also provide visual structure and help to keep consistency across platforms. Guides are helpful in marking a line where you want to align objects and allow objects to snap to that line. So make sure that your rulers are on, which is going to be Command/Control+R, and then apply a grid. And simply drag from either the top or left side ruler to make a horizontal or vertical grid line respectively. So layout grids let you create consistency across your design, make decisions easier when adjusting spacing, reduce time while making mockups, as well as allowing for flexible layouts. So you can apply a layout grid to frames only, like top level frames. However, you can also apply them onto nested frames. So how to create a layout grid? First, you're going to want to select the frame that you want to apply a grid on. Remember that it has to be a frame. To frame something, you're going to do Control/Command plus Alt/Option plus G. So in the right sidebar, you're going to go ahead and click the plus sign to create a layout grid on that frame. And then a uniform grid is going to be placed by default, just like a simple basic grid. But you can adjust the settings of that grid by clicking on the grid icon next to the grid name to adjust the properties, such as rows, columns, and spacing to make your custom grid. So after clicking the grid icon, you have the option to turn the grid into column or row grid. You can also add another one or layer different types of grids. So column and row properties are editable, spacing, number of rows and columns in the grid, margin, and offset. You can also make a grid fixed by fixing its, you can also make a grid fixed by setting its width, height, and number of rows, or you can also leave it alone and will also adjust automatically if resized. So constraints, these are used to make sure your designs stay in the place that you want them to be. So when we resize an object or element, oftentimes we want to make them larger, but the contents should remain in the same place relative to the position. So for example, say the website's logo should always be in the top left corner. But as you see in the example on the right, sometimes resizing doesn't work out in our favor, and we can fix this by using constraints. So constraints basically do exactly what they sound like. They constrain elements into certain positions or spots. Constraints keep our elements in places that we want, allowing for responsive and easily adjustable designs. Also, a shortcut to ignore the constraints that you've placed upon it, you can hold Command/Control while resizing a frame. So your constraint options, and for example, in this example, in the right sidebar, you can adjust constraints to constrain the photo to the left side of the screen. So for horizontal axis, you can do left and right, center, and scale as the constraint options. So this will resize your frame while keeping the position of this image or this object in mind. And for vertical, you can do top and bottom, center, and scale. So these work in the same way as horizontal, but can be used in any combination. All right, so last section, ideation and wireframing. So what is wireframing and why is it important? When you're trying to create designs, you might have many different ideas of how you want to try out with different layouts, fonts, composition, and flows. Wireframing is a great way to work through all your different ideas and prompt new ones. This is also sometimes called prototyping, but it's not the same as when you prototype your design, also known as, adding in interactions in your screens to make the file more interactive. So wireframes are basically your design at different stages of the design process. Sometimes these are referred to as the prototypes, but they generally represent the same thing. Prototypes usually have some interactivity. So using different fidelity or stages of wireframes within your design allows you to be more flexible in arranging or rearranging details and to explore all ideas that you have. So what is fidelity? You can think of fidelity as the level of completeness of the design. A low fidelity design means starting from the beginning, representing the design with the most basic shapes of objects and position of text, as well as no/few colors. Mid fidelity is going to mean more components in progress, more text fleshed out, and more details added, such as your basic colors. And high fidelity is going to be close to the final project. Most details are going to be brought in and perfected with colors and content in place. So on the the right-hand side, there's going to be a low or mid-fidelity wireframe of a website's homepage. The placement of all the things are clear, but there aren't many details. And on the right, you're going to see the high fidelity or final version of the same website where you see the text and images are filled in and the fonts and colors are also adjusted. So this is one example of a screen in low, mid, and high fidelity prototypes. Working in low or mid-fi allows you to easily move elements and play around with your design before you're set into a specific design or idea. You should include basic structure and spacing and only key elements, focusing on the hierarchy and shapes of the design. After low-fi, in mid and high-fi, you can continue adding in more details like text, varying shapes, adding in basic components, and so on, and basic colors might also be useful. So the line between mid and hi-fi fidelity can also be kind of blurry, but just keep in mind that hi-fi is often really close to the final design. So your illustrations, icons, content, colors, and type, they should all be mostly finalized and set. All right, so wrapping up announcements and assignments. Homework 3, making Spotify. So, okay, our community page is once again a little broken right now, but I sent all the links that you need this week in the Slack channel, so please check announcements. And once again, you're going to duplicate the file with the button in the right hand corner. And in this week's homework, you are going to be practicing using components to make low, mid, and high fi wireframes of your Spotify profile. Lab 3 is going to be pattern grids. You're going to be doing this with your TA on Thursday. You're going to be working with variants and a little bit of variables by creating fun patterns. So the secret word this week is going to be dinner. Yes. Thank you.